Hey everyone, Rascally Rasmus here. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite farming sims, Sunhaven. While Sunhaven is a game with a lot of flaws, it also does a lot of things exceptionally well, and both my girlfriend and I really enjoyed the 80 hours we spent playing co-op. At its essence, Sunhaven feels like a high fantasy Stardew Valley with strong RPG elements including actual quest lines, magic, and engaging skill trees. Sunhaven leans heavily into its fantasy setting right from the get-go. In the game's character creator, you can choose between human and multiple fantasy races such as angels, demons, elves, and elementals. Both your choice of race and your starting professions offer small but meaningful early game perks. Once you've created your character, you'll enter a few cutscenes hinting at grave danger and impending doom in the town of Sunhaven, after which you go through a few beginner tutorials where you're given your first farm. At this point, you're free to start cleaning up your farm, explore the town and surrounding areas, socialize, mine, fight, and all the usual stuff you'd expect from a farming sim. Sunhaven of course also has festivals, fishing, changing seasons, and foraging, and also you can jump, which is cool. Initially, all of these things function pretty much exactly like you'd imagine. Farming is done by tilling, planting, watering, and harvesting, and so on, and you gain experience from doing each activity. However, there's no stamina in Sunhaven, which frankly is refreshing. Before long, you'll also start earning your first skill points and unlocking your first spells, which alters the way you approach some activities. The spells vary from combat spells such as a fireball to an air skip allowing for quicker traversal, to utility spells allowing you to more efficiently chop wood, break rocks, till the soil, and water your crops. Casting spells cost mana, and initially your mana pool is barely large enough to cast more than a spell or two. Thankfully, Sunhaven offers several ways to permanently increase your character stats. These stats are pretty typical RPG stats and include attack damage, spell damage, health, mana, and movement speed. The most reliable way to increase your stats is through food. A lot of food or drinks in the game, whether rare or common, will depending on food type permanently increase one of your stats by a small margin the first 100 times they're consumed. This stat increase is however heavily front-loaded to incentivize the player to consume as many different types of food as possible. I love how this system makes cooking feel rewarding. Likewise, it also incentivizes planting a variety of crops instead of just the crop that happens to be the most profitable. Another quite effective way of increasing your stats is completing quests. Quests in Sunhaven can be broadly divided into three categories: main quests, side quests, and repeatable quests. The main quest in Sunhaven is pretty expansive and consists of several intertwining quest lines taking place in the game's 4 distinct regions. Typically, these quests are a bit more action-packed and engaging than the other types of quests, though they do still feature typical fetch quests as well. Side quests are for the most part less action-packed and are instead mostly just fetch quests. Lastly, repeatable quests are generally obtained from the bulletin board that offers a couple of timed quests every day, pretty similar to the weekly bulletin board in Stardew Valley. Initially, these quests were quite fun to do, but given the quest's repeatable nature, they eventually became, well, kind of repetitive. I think Sunhaven would benefit greatly from an increase in the amount of repeatable quests available. This would help prevent scenarios where you're doing the same repeatable quest multiple days in a row. An alternative solution to this could be to at the very least randomize the rewards from them. Regardless of quest type, all quests tend to offer valuable rewards. These include permanent stat increases, different currencies, consumables, experience, equipment, cosmetic items, and even skill points. Something that really stood out to me the first time I played Sunhaven was the skill trees. I love well-developed skill trees with powerful and fun choices, and Sunhaven really delivers on this front. There are 5 skill trees in Sunhaven: mining, fishing, farming, exploration, and combat. Outside of questing, you can earn skill points for each of these by leveling up through doing the corresponding activity. For instance, foraging or finding treasure will award you with exploration experience, while planting or harvesting crops will award you with farming experience. The skills themselves offer a wide range of different bonuses. Among these are permanent stat increases, unlocking spells, shooting extra projectiles in combat, receiving a small amount of gold every day, or a weekly package of flower seeds that you can plant and sell. One skill also gives you the option to use your tools while mounted, while another skill will spawn a golden pomegranate in a random location every day. Consuming the golden pomegranate will permanently increase both your health and mana by 2 and award you with 200 gold. So this skill greatly incentivizes repeated exploration. While I like the combat in Sunhaven quite a bit and I think it's a step up from Stardew Valley, it's still relatively simple and somewhat clunky at times. Throughout Sunhaven, you will take on a variety of enemies and bosses. Both enemies and bosses are of simple design, but most do come with a special move or two to set them apart. Enemy attacks can be avoided either by simply moving out of the way or by utilizing your air dash as a dodge. To fight back, you can either use your sword, a crossbow, or of course your spells. As mentioned earlier, spellcasting is a big part of what sets Sunhaven's combat apart from other similar games. You can have up to 4 spells equipped at once, but these can easily be changed out on the fly. The first combat spell you can unlock is a fireball, but later on you can unlock more powerful spells such as chain lightning for taking on multiple enemies at once, or cataclysm, which transforms you into a tornado-like ball of energy, damaging all enemies in your way. Respawning enemies were at times quite the annoyance. In the open world, enemies will always respawn whenever you enter a zone, which is fine, but especially while fighting enemies above your level, you'll also frequently encounter enemies respawning while you're still fighting. While not a deal breaker, this did make for a pretty negative experience. Thankfully, it's not something that's really happening in the mines or other designated combat areas in the game. To become strong enough to take on tougher enemies and bosses, you will, aside from leveling up your skill trees and increasing your stats, need better equipment. You have 9 equipment slots consisting of armor, jewelry, and a keepsake. It should be mentioned that there are cosmetic slots for all the armor pieces, so you never have to compromise on your looks. Better equipment, tools, and weapons can be obtained by doing quests, finding treasure chests, from museum rewards, or be purchased from shops or from crafting. You start out with either a rusty sword or a crossbow that you can then upgrade to copper quality, then iron quality, and so on. The same goes for your pickaxe, axe, watering can, armor, and all the other tools and equipment pieces you have. To get the metal for these upgrades, you can venture into the mines. The first mine you'll encounter in Sunhaven is separated into 50 floors for you to progress through. Like in Stardew Valley, the quality of loot and metals will progressively get higher the deeper into the mines you venture. As you get further into the main quest and travel to the game's other major regions, you will also encounter new smaller mines too, with new metals to gather. Besides the Sunhaven region, there are 3 other major and pretty distinct regions in the game. Each region has its own currency, quests, shops, cosmetics, and rewards. They also all have their own romanceable characters and a bulletin board with repeatable quests specific to that region. As you progress through both the Elven region Nelvari and the monster city Withergate, you'll receive a new farm in each of these regions. On these new farms, you can plant new crops, make new crafting machines that use region-specific crafting materials, as well as decorate, just like you would on your original Sunhaven farm. Likewise, both Nelvari and Withergate offer their own versions of the mines. And generally, both regions play pretty much like alternative versions of the main region. If you try to manage all 3 farms at once, you might quickly feel overwhelmed, especially if you're playing solo. Because of that, I would strongly recommend that you take your time and enjoy the fresh start that each of these areas offer without stressing about also maintaining your Sunhaven farm at the same time. The third new region, Brinestone Deeps, is an underwater region that was added to the game earlier this year. This one feels a little watered down compared to the others, but still offers a relatively short new main quest along with new repeatable quests from the bulletin and a few shops. The lack of a new farm, mine, and a relatively slim offering of new items did hurt my overall impressions of this region though. That being said, the quantity of content on offer in Sunhaven is certainly still impressive, even if the quality is fluctuating. I think this is actually one of Sunhaven's biggest hurdles. The overall design philosophy seems to be to just cram as much stuff into the game as possible, and while I personally tend to like the approach of adding a lot of content, too much filler content or content that feels incomplete can be detrimental to the overall health of the game, and I think the developers need to be careful with this approach going forward. A major example of this design philosophy is the crafting. Crafting in Sunhaven is done through crafting stations. There are a lot of these, and a lot of things to craft at each crafting station. Similarly, there are also a lot of materials to stockpile, such as ore, metal bars, wood, enemy drops, forageables, crops, and fish. This means that crafting and storage of all your materials easily can turn into a bit of a headache. The situation is not helped by the addition of the other regions. The Sunhaven region farm has over 20 different crafting machines alone, and on top of that, both the Nelvari and the Withergate farm come with their own versions of several of these crafting machines. It also doesn't help that there is some overlap in which regions crafting machines require which materials. So placement of crafting machines and chests for storage can easily turn into an organizational puzzle. I feel like several of these crafting machines could be combined with the game being all the better for it. Like, do I really need 3 different kinds of juicers? Some people might like the variety, especially as they each come with their own look, but personally I just find that it makes the game unnecessarily convoluted. Ultimately, I did still enjoy the crafting in Sunhaven, mainly thanks to the excellent quality of life features in place like crafting from storage and quick stacking to any chest in the same area. An area where the amount of content available shines is the museum. Here there is a plethora of collections to complete, ranging from seasonal and region-specific crops and fish to rare drops from enemies. Completing collections offer unique and powerful rewards, which makes donating to the museum very rewarding. Some of the rare drops can however be quite the grind to obtain, but overall that is probably okay as completing the museum is entirely optional. Another optional system is romance. Currently there are 23 romanceable characters across Sunhaven. These all have unique dialogue, cutscenes, and relationship quests. Just like in Stardew Valley, you can improve your hearts with the characters by talking to them, doing quests for them, or gifting them items. Gifting is also similar to Stardew, and each character has unique likes and dislikes. It should also be mentioned that once you're married, you're able to have a child should you so desire. Relationships in Sunhaven are quite rewarding. Characters you befriend will give you gifts every once in a while, including special birthday gifts. Once you progress your relationship status far enough with each character, they will also give you their keepsake. These are equipables that offer very powerful bonuses unique to each character. Likewise, when you marry, you will get a unique wedding ring with powerful bonuses. While it's nice being rewarded, this system does come with some caveats. You can easily end up feeling shoehorned into romancing someone just to obtain their ring or keepsake, or into participating in the romance system in general, even if you have no desire to actually do so. The quality of the relationship dialogue can, like many other aspects of Sunhaven, fluctuate quite a bit. Sometimes it's maybe not that great, and other times it's kinda sweet or funny. Personally, I found that the dialogue is at its best if you don't take it too seriously and just try to enjoy it for what it is. In general, both the writing and story of the game does not seem to be meant to be taken very seriously, and both are a bit all over the place. The writing is filled with attempts at humor, some that work and many that don't. The fourth wall is constantly being broken, and the game's story doesn't seem to have much depth or strong message. That's not to say that there's nothing of substance, but I don't think that it's the focal point of the game. The writing is meant to be entertaining, not deep or provocative. At its essence, like the rest of Sunhaven, it's all about having fun. One slight gripe I did have with the writing was that during dialogue, and especially main story quests, you'll very frequently be represented with multiple dialogue options that seem like they should lead to meaningful consequences. Unfortunately, these consequences are completely absent beside losing hearts with romanceable characters if you pick incorrectly. However, outside of losing these hearts, the consequences of your actions can sometimes be boiled down to a single word being changed, which I found quite disappointing, as it sort of rendered my choices completely meaningless more often than not. Even though Sunhaven has been fully released on Steam for a while now, the game is still being actively developed and new content is being added as the developers are working towards the Nintendo Switch port. Among the new content currently in development is a 5th major region. The performance of the game is excellent and it plays fine both on my gaming PC and my laptop running the game on integrated graphics. Unfortunately, Sunhaven has more than a few technical issues. Some issues are minor bugs while others are game-breaking. Among these game-breaking issues have been reports of people losing their saves. My girlfriend and I did not experience too many issues aside from minor bugs and visual glitches. A while back we did however encounter an issue related to co-op where the quick stack function would delete items from our storage. Figuring out what was causing the issue was time consuming and it certainly made it harder to enjoy the game until we learned how to play around it. This bug has since been fixed, but it did take quite a while. Sunhaven essentially seems to be in a constant cycle of the devs fixing bugs only for new bugs to appear with every patch. While I think that the amount of technical issues would be acceptable for a game in early access, for a game that's fully released, the severity of some of these issues is unacceptable, especially when issues aren't always resolved quickly either. That being said, it's difficult to judge a relatively small indie studio too harshly when even major AAA publishers are releasing unfinished or downright broken games left and right. Regardless, this is definitely something to be aware of before purchasing the game. Sunhaven features up to 8-player co-op, and while it's nice having the option to play with this many friends, I think the initial Sunhaven farm might be a bit on the smaller side if you're sharing it with 7 other people. In general, co-op works pretty well aside from any co-op specific bugs like the one my girlfriend and I encountered. Do note that for better or worse, quest progression in co-op is entirely linked to the individual. While I think this can be a good thing as everyone can go about their questing experience at exactly the pace that they desire, it can be a bit hit or miss whether you can help your friends with certain quests or not. Like sometimes you'll be able to see your friends fighting enemies that are invisible to you, as the enemies are tied to your friend's quest progress. This can be a jarring experience, especially if you'd like to go questing together with your friends. Thankfully, there's still plenty of other activities in the game that you can do together. If you or whoever you're playing with is struggling with the game's combat, Sunhaven offers the option to turn off player damage entirely. This can be done straight from the in-game menu in case you get stuck on a pesky boss. There are also several other accessibility options, including the option to disable the need for scarecrows, seasonal effects such as putting out burning crops in the summer, or seasonal bosses appearing. My favorite of these is being able to adjust the day length from anywhere between 15 and 40 minutes. We also need to talk briefly about the game's presentation, cosmetic items, and monetization. Sunhaven can be an incredibly cozy game both to look at and to play. Personally, I'm not in love with all the aesthetic choices in the game, and especially the character portraits are not exactly my cup of tea. Playing the game, I got used to them pretty quickly though. I really like the game's soundtrack all around, and especially Withergate had a very catchy theme song. A major selling point for Sunhaven is the incredible amount of cosmetic items that are obtainable by playing the game. There are tons of armor, clothing, mounts, pets, furniture, and even skins for buildings. Enough that you in theory can design a small village inside your very own farm. Acquiring a new cosmetic was a game element that I really enjoyed. Unfortunately, there's a lot of cosmetics that cannot be acquired for free in the game too. Despite being a $25 game, Sunhaven is, at the time of writing, offering no less than 27 paid cosmetic DLC packs, ranging roughly from $5 to $13 per pack. There are plenty of arguments to be had both for and against this, and this topic could probably be a whole video in itself, so I'm gonna try to keep it short. It's important to reiterate that the DLCs are only cosmetic items. The DLCs do however allow you to get a mount right from the start of the game, which, while not a major gameplay advantage, could be considered pay to win or pay for convenience. Personally, I'm okay with games selling cosmetic packs, as I understand that this can sometimes be necessary in order for a game to remain profitable and allow the developers to continue adding new content to a game. The already impressive amount of free cosmetics in the game also makes it a little easier to stomach this. Similarly, I appreciate that the developers have not locked any new regions or other content behind a paywall. I do however think that pay for convenience in a premium game is entirely unacceptable. Likewise, for a game with as many issues as Sunhaven, 27 paid DLC packs does feel a little excessive, especially when you have to imagine that some of the resources poured into these could have been spent fixing actual issues in the game or fleshing out some of the underdeveloped areas such as Brimstone Deeps. For instance, it truly feels like the items from the Deep Sea pack should have been part of the Brimstone Deeps region instead of being sold as DLC. Before we rate the game, I just want to thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Now let's get to the rating. As I said at the start of this video, Sunhaven is one of my favorite farming sims, especially thanks to the massive amount of content available, even if the quality is fluctuating and some things could be more fleshed out. The other highlights for me are the fantasy, the RPG elements, the many customization options, the magic, and the skill trees. I also really appreciate that the game has co-op, which is something I wish all farming sims would have. Because of how much fun I've had with Sunhaven, I really wanted to give it 9 out of 10 rascals, but due to all the issues and in particular the game-breaking bugs and how long they sometimes take to get fixed along with the monetization, I just can't justify that high a score. So I will instead give Sunhaven 8 out of 10 rascals. That being said, I do strongly recommend Sunhaven if you can accept its flaws. Again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, have a very nice day.